A quiet Tuesday morning at a Denver bank, a pregnant woman walks in to ask one simple question about her husband's secret accounts. What happens next will be captured by 14 security cameras and watched by over 20 million people. Her millionaire husband storms through those glass doors. He grabs her wrist in front of 40 witnesses. And then he does something so shocking that an entire nation will demand justice. He kicks his pregnant wife in the stomach. She falls to the marble floor, clutching her belly, crying, terrified, alone. But here is what he does not know. Her father just walked through those same doors, a retired Army colonel, a man who has spent his life protecting others. And he is about to start a war. What follows is not a police case. It is not a courtroom drama. It is a story of revenge executed with military precision, a story of secrets exposed to millions, a story of a woman who was supposed to stay silent but chose to speak. By the end, this millionaire will lose everything: his company, his reputation, his freedom to walk the streets without shame, and the pregnant woman he thought he had broken. She will be the one standing when the dust settles. This is the full story. Stay with me until the end, because the final twist will leave you speechless. The winter sun hung low over Denver that Tuesday morning, casting pale light across the marble steps of Greystone National Bank. Anna Whitmore stood at the entrance and placed one hand on her swollen belly. Her baby shifted gently beneath her palm. She was 6 months pregnant and terrified. She whispered to her unborn daughter, "We just need the truth, baby girl. Then we can figure out what to do." The glass doors reflected her face back at her. She looked tired. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. A fading bruise hid beneath the makeup on her left cheek. She had told her husband she bumped into a cabinet. He had smiled when she said it. Anna took a deep breath and walked inside. The lobby glowed under warm pendant lights. Polished marble floors gleamed like frozen water. Well-dressed customers waited in orderly lines, while bank employees moved with practiced efficiency. The smell of coffee drifted from a small station near the waiting area. Anna approached the reception desk slowly. Her pregnancy made every step deliberate. She offered a polite smile to the young teller behind the counter. "I am here to ask about several accounts under the name Graham Blackwell," she said softly. The teller nodded and asked for identification. Anna handed over her license with trembling fingers. Her heart pounded against her ribs. 3 nights ago, she had found something that changed everything: a bank statement hidden inside a locked drawer in her husband's home office. The account held $4.2 million. Her name appeared nowhere on the paperwork. In 7 years of marriage, Graham had never mentioned it. She had convinced herself that coming to the bank was the only way to know the truth. She deserved honesty. Her baby deserved it too. The teller typed a few lines into the computer. Then he stopped. His expression shifted from professional courtesy to confusion. He glanced toward the inner offices as if searching for someone more experienced. "Is there a problem?" Anna asked quietly. Before the teller could answer, the heavy glass doors behind her swung open with violent force. Footsteps echoed across the marble. Fast, angry, deliberate. A voice cut through the quiet lobby like a blade. "Anna, what do you think you are doing here?" She froze. Her shoulders tightened. She recognized that voice instantly. It was the voice that had whispered sweet promises on their wedding night. The same voice that screamed at her last month when dinner was cold. Graham Blackwell strode across the lobby in a navy suit that cost more than most people earned in a month. His jaw was clenched. His eyes burned with fury. He was 41 years old, handsome, wealthy, the CEO of Blackwell Development Corporation. He sat on charity boards. He shook hands with mayors. He smiled for cameras at gala events. Behind closed doors, he was someone else entirely. "I just needed to ask about the accounts," Anna managed to say. Her voice cracked. "I found some statements, and I wanted to understand." Graham stopped 3 feet away from her. His presence seemed to fill the entire space. Other customers turned to watch. A mother pulled her young son closer. "You wanted to understand," Graham repeated. His laugh was sharp and cold. "You have embarrassed me. You have embarrassed yourself. You had no right to come here." "The accounts are under your name," Anna said quietly. "We are married. I thought we could talk about it." Graham stepped closer. He towered over her. His expensive cologne mixed with something darker, something that smelled like rage. Lower your voice, he said through gritted teeth. Everyone is watching. I am not doing anything wrong, Anna whispered. Tears filled her eyes. I just want the truth. You do not get the truth, Graham snapped. You do not get anything without my permission. Anna tried to step backward. She needed space. She needed to protect her stomach. But Graham moved faster. His hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. His fingers dug into her skin until she gasped. Let go, she pleaded. Graham, you are hurting me. He did not let go. Several customers stared with wide eyes. An elderly woman covered her mouth. A man in his 70s whispered something to his wife. Two younger customers pulled out their phones. Their hands were shaking. Then it happened. Without hesitation, without shame, without a single glance at the dozens of witnesses surrounding them. Graham lifted his leg and kicked Anna hard in the side of her pregnant belly. The impact echoed across the marble floor. A sharp cry escaped her throat. Her body folded inward. Her knees buckled. She collapsed to the cold floor with her arms wrapped desperately around her stomach. Pain shot through her entire body like lightning. The lobby fell completely silent. Someone dropped a pen. The sound seemed deafening in the stillness. An older woman let out a horrified gasp and clutched the arm of the man beside her. A young mother turned her child away from the scene. A security guard stood frozen near the entrance, his hand hovering uselessly over his radio. Anna's vision blurred. The cold marble pressed against her palms. Her heart raced in frantic, terrified beats. She tried to breathe, but her chest tightened around the pain. Then she felt something that made terror flood every part of her being. Her baby moved, a soft kick from inside. Please, Anna whispered. Please be okay. Please be okay. Graham stood over her with no hint of remorse on his face. Get up, he ordered. Stop acting pathetic. Anna lifted her head. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. She attempted to rise, but her legs trembled uncontrollably. 40 people watched. 14 security cameras recorded every second. And then the bank doors opened once more. A tall man with silver hair stepped through. He carried a small folder of documents under his arm. His coat was dusted with snow. His boots echoed against the marble as he walked. His name was Charles Whitmore. He was 64 years old, a retired Army colonel, a widower who had buried his wife 8 years ago. He had come to the bank to sign paperwork for a small investment. He had no idea his daughter would be here. His eyes fell immediately on the scene before him. A pregnant woman on the floor, a man standing over her, the horrified faces of witnesses. Then he recognized the woman. His entire body went rigid. Anna, he whispered. Charles dropped the folder. Papers scattered across the floor as he rushed forward. He knelt beside his daughter and touched her shoulder with trembling hands. Sweetheart, look at me. Stay with me. Anna blinked slowly. Her face was wet with tears. Dad, she murmured. Her voice shook like a frightened child. He kicked me. Charles turned his head toward Graham. The warmth in his eyes vanished completely. What remained was something cold, something ancient, something that had been forged in battlefields decades ago and never truly disappeared. Graham scoffed and adjusted his suit jacket. This is none of your concern, old man. She made a scene. She is my daughter, Charles said. His voice was low and steady, the voice of a man who had commanded soldiers in combat, the voice of a man who did not need to raise his volume to be heard. And she is carrying my grandchild. Then you should teach her to respect her husband, Graham replied with a cruel smile. She deserved what she got. Charles rose slowly to his feet. The entire lobby felt the shift in his presence. The air seemed to grow heavier. The temperature seemed to drop. He was no longer just a father kneeling beside his injured daughter. He was something else now, something dangerous. Charles leaned down and lifted Anna carefully into his arms. She clutched his collar and cried softly into his coat. Her body shook with each ah. The bank employees cleared a path. The customers moved aside. Every camera in the room continued to record. Charles looked directly into the nearest security camera. His eyes held no fear, no hesitation, only purpose, only resolve, only the silent promise of a man who would not forgive. Then he looked at Graham one final time. Today, he said quietly, is only the beginning. He carried his daughter out of the bank and into the cold Denver morning. Graham Blackwell stood alone in the middle of the lobby, his expensive suit, his confident posture, his absolute certainty that he was untouchable. He had no idea that his entire world had just begun to collapse. The ambulance lights flashed red and white across the hospital parking lot. Paramedics rushed Anna through the emergency room doors on a wheeled stretcher. The cold Denver air vanished behind them, replaced by the sharp smell of antiseptic and the steady beeping of monitors. Anna clung to consciousness, her hands pressed against her stomach as if she could shield her baby from everything that had happened. Every bump of the stretcher sent pain rippling through her side. "Please," she whispered, "please let her be okay." A nurse ran alongside the stretcher. "We are checking you both right now, honey. Stay calm, keep breathing." They wheeled her into an exam room where medical staff moved with urgent efficiency. One nurse adjusted monitors while another placed warm blankets over Anna's trembling body. A doctor in blue scrubs entered and immediately began examining her abdomen. Charles Whitmore followed close behind. His boots clicked against the linoleum floor. His face was tight with controlled fear. He had carried wounded soldiers before. He had held dying men in his arms on battlefields thousands of miles from home. Nothing had ever terrified him like this. He stood by the curtain and gripped the fabric with one hand. He needed something to anchor him. The sight of his daughter lying on that hospital bed broke something inside his chest. "Dad," Anna whispered. Her voice was thin and fragile. "It hurts." "I know, sweetheart." Charles moved to her side and took her hand. His fingers were cold but steady. "I am here. They are taking care of you. Just breathe." The doctor pressed a stethoscope to Anna's belly and listened intently. His expression revealed nothing. Then he moved to a portable ultrasound machine and applied gel to her skin. Anna closed her eyes. Tears leaked from beneath her lashes. "Please," she whispered again. "Please." The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the machine. Then a sound filled the room. Rapid and rhythmic. Strong. A heartbeat. The doctor exhaled and nodded. "The baby's heartbeat is present and stable. That is very good news." Anna let out a sob of relief. Her entire body seemed to deflate as tension released from her muscles. Charles squeezed her hand tighter. His own eyes glistened, but he blinked the moisture away. However, the doctor continued carefully. "Your body has experienced significant trauma. We need to monitor you closely for the next 24 hours. Stress like this, it can affect the pregnancy in ways that are not immediately apparent." Charles felt his jaw tighten. "What do you mean?" "I mean, she needs rest." The doctor looked at Charles with a grave expression. "She needs calm, and most importantly, she needs protection from whatever caused this." Charles nodded once, a sharp motion that carried the weight of a decision already made. The medical team continued their examination. They checked Anna's blood pressure. They monitored her oxygen levels. They documented the bruises on her arms and the tender area on her side where Graham's foot had connected. After 30 minutes, the doctor asked to speak with Charles privately. They stepped into the hallway. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A nurse pushed a supply cart past them. The corridor smelled like industrial cleaner and coffee from a distant break room. The doctor folded his hands in front of him. His expression was solemn. "I have worked in this hospital for over 30 years, he began. "I have seen women come through those doors with injuries they claimed were from accidents. Slipping, falling, walking into doors. Many of those stories were not true." Charles felt ice spread through his veins. The doctor continued, "Your daughter's bruises are not just from today. Some of them are weeks old. The discoloration patterns tell a different story than any accident could explain. And what happened at that bank could have caused a miscarriage. She was very lucky." The words hit Charles like bullets. He had noticed the bruises before. He had asked Anna about them during family dinners. She had always offered an excuse, a clumsy moment, a bump against furniture. She had always looked away when she answered. "I am telling you this as a medical professional," the doctor said quietly. "She is not safe with whoever did this to her. If she goes back, it will happen again. And next time the baby might not survive." Charles stared at the man in silence. His chest rose and fell with controlled breathing. the kind of breathing he had learned in the military to keep calm under fire. But this was not a battlefield. This was his daughter. This was his grandchild. Thank you, doctor. His voice was steady despite the storm raging inside him. I understand. The doctor placed a hand on Charles's shoulder. Protect her, he said. She needs someone who will not look away. I will, Charles replied. I promise. When he returned to the exam room, Anna was resting. Her breathing had steadied, though pain still shadowed her face. The monitors beeped softly in the dim light. Charles pulled a chair close and sat down. He took her hand gently and held it between both of his. Your baby is holding on, he whispered. She is strong, just like you. Anna's eyes fluttered open. They were red from crying. Dad, I do not want to go home. Her voice cracked. I cannot face him. I cannot pretend anymore. Charles felt his heart crack along with her words. You will not go back, he said firmly. I will not let you. I will never let him touch you again. Anna closed her eyes. A shuddering breath escaped her lips as if the weight of months had finally fallen from her shoulders. For the first time since she had walked into that bank, she allowed herself to feel something other than fear. She felt hope. Charles remained at her bedside through the night. He watched her sleep. He watched the monitors. He watched the door. His mind turned through memories like pages of a book he did not want to read. Every conversation where Anna had brushed aside his concern, every moment where she smiled too brightly, every bruise she never explained properly. He had been blind. He had trusted that his daughter was happy because she told him she was happy. He had not pushed harder. He had not asked the right questions. That failure burned inside him like acid. But guilt would not save her. Regret would not protect his grandchild. Only action would do that. Around midnight, Charles stepped into the hallway and pulled out his phone. He dialed a number he had not used in years. The phone rang 4 times before a rough voice answered. Wilson, been a long time. Charles leaned against the wall. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face. Jonah, he said quietly, I need your help. There was a pause on the other end. Then another voice joined the line. A 3-way call. What happened, Charles? The second voice belonged to Mason Caldwell, a man Charles had served with 3 decades ago. Charles looked through the small window at his daughter sleeping in the hospital bed. Her hands rested protectively over her belly even in sleep. My girl is hurt, he said, and I am not going to let it happen again. Silence stretched across the line. Then Jonah spoke. Tell us when and where. Charles closed his eyes. His voice dropped to a low, steady tone. Tonight, he said. We start tonight. He ended the call and returned to Anna's room. She was still sleeping. The monitors still beeped their steady rhythm. Outside the window, Denver sprawled beneath the winter sky like a city made of shadows. Charles sat down in the chair beside his daughter's bed. He did not sleep. He planned. The next morning arrived with cruel irony. Pale sunlight streamed through the hospital windows. Birds sang in the trees outside. The world continued as if nothing had happened, but everything had changed. Anna woke to the sound of her phone buzzing on the bedside table. She reached for it groggily and squinted at the screen. Her heart stopped. A news alert filled her screen. Her own face stared back at her from a thumbnail image. The headline read, Hysterical Woman Causes Scene at Denver Bank. Anna's hands trembled as she clicked the link. A video played, the bank lobby, the marble floors, Graham storming in. But something was wrong. The footage had been edited. The moment where Graham kicked her was completely removed. The clip showed her falling to her knees as if she had simply collapsed on her own. The comments beneath the video were vicious. She was probably trying to steal his money, one person wrote. Rich men always attract crazy women, said another. I feel sorry for him. She looks totally unstable. Anna felt bile rise in her throat. She scrolled through dozens of comments. Hundreds of comments. Thousands of people watching a manipulated version of the worst moment of her life and deciding she was the villain. Dad, she called out. Her voice cracked. Dad, come look at this. Charles hurried to her bedside. He took the phone and watched the video. His expression grew darker with each passing second. He edited it, Anna whispered. He made it look like I just fell down. He made it look like I was the crazy one. Charles handed the phone back to her. His jaw was clenched so tight that a muscle twitched near his temple. This is how men like him operate, he said quietly. They control the story before their victims can speak. Before Anna could respond, her phone rang. The caller ID showed her lawyer's office. She answered with a shaking hand. Mrs. Blackwell, the lawyer said. Her voice was professional but strained. I need to inform you of several urgent legal developments. Anna felt dread pool in her stomach. What developments? Your husband filed an emergency motion this morning. He is seeking sole custody of your unborn child on grounds of mental instability. He has also filed a restraining order claiming you are a danger to yourself and others. Anna could not breathe. The room seemed to spin around her. There is more, the lawyer continued. He has frozen all joint accounts. You currently have no access to any marital funds. I am so sorry, Mrs. Blackwell. I wanted you to hear this from me before you saw it on the news. The phone slipped from Anna's fingers and landed on the bed. Charles picked it up. What else, he demanded. The lawyer hesitated. Mr. Blackwell held a brief press conference 30 minutes ago. He expressed deep concern for his wife's mental health. He said he only wants her to get the help she needs. He cried on camera. Charles ended the call without another word. Anna stared at the ceiling. Tears streamed down her temples and soaked into the pillow beneath her head. He is going to take my baby, she whispered. He is going to take her before she is even born. Charles sat on the edge of the bed. He took both of her hands in his. Listen to me, he said firmly. He will not take her. I will not allow it. How can you stop him? Anna's voice was hollow. He has money. He has lawyers. He has judges. He has everything. He does not have everything, Charles replied. He does not have the truth. Anna looked at her father. His face was lined with age and weathered by decades of difficult choices, but his eyes burned with something fierce and unwavering. What do you mean, she asked. Charles leaned closer. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I made some calls last night, he said. Old contacts, men I served with, men who know how to find things that people want to keep hidden. Anna felt a spark of something she had not felt in months, something that might have been hope. What did they find, she asked. Charles took a deep breath. Graham Blackwell has been married twice before. Both marriages ended quickly. Both women signed non-disclosure agreements and disappeared. One of them died in a car accident 6 months after her divorce. Anna's blood ran cold. The other woman tried to report him for abuse, Charles continued. The case was thrown out. The judge who dismissed it received a $200,000 donation to his re-election campaign 2 weeks later. The money came from Blackwell Development Corporation. Anna felt the room tilt. She gripped her father's hands tighter. He has done this before, she whispered. He destroys women and no one stops him. Charles nodded slowly. That is why we cannot fight him through the courts. He owns too many people. He has corrupted the system. Then what do we do? Charles looked at her with steady determination. We fight him through the people, he said. We expose every lie. We reveal every secret. We let the whole country see exactly who Graham Blackwell really is. Anna felt tears spill down her cheeks again, but this time they were not tears of despair. They were tears of defiance. How do we start, she asked. Charles squeezed her hands. We already have, he replied. That afternoon, 2 men arrived at Charles's home on the outskirts of Denver. They came separately, parked in different locations, and entered through different doors. Old habits from old wars died hard. Jonah Price was the first to arrive. He was 58 years old with a weathered face and eyes that had seen too much. He had spent 20 years in Army intelligence before retiring to work as a private investigator. He specialized in surveillance. He knew how to watch without being seen. Mason Caldwell arrived 30 minutes later. He was younger, 53, with graying hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He had been the best technical specialist in their unit during the Gulf War. Now he worked freelance, helping corporations protect their digital infrastructure, or sometimes helping people break through digital walls that protected dangerous secrets. Charles met them in his study. The room smelled like old books and wood polish. Maps covered one wall. Photographs from his military service lined another. Thank you for coming, Charles said. Both of you. Jonah settled into an armchair. You saved my life in '91, he said simply. When you call, I answer. Mason nodded from his position near the window. Same. What do you need, Charles? Charles spent the next hour explaining everything. The bank, the kick, the edited video, the custody filing, the frozen accounts, Graham's previous marriages. When he finished, silence filled the room. Jonah spoke first. This man has a pattern. He targets women, controls them, destroys them, then pays to erase any evidence. He has done it twice before. Anna is his third victim. Mason leaned forward, and he has the system protecting him. Judges, lawyers, probably police contacts too. Going through official channels is a dead end. Charles nodded. That is why we need to go around the channels. We need to find everything he is hiding, every secret account, every payment, every piece of evidence that proves who he really is. Jonah cracked his knuckles. I can start surveillance tonight. If he has a mistress, I will find her. If he is meeting anyone suspicious, I will document it. Mason pulled out a small laptop. I can get into his smart home system. Men like him love technology. They install cameras everywhere thinking it protects them. They never realize those same cameras can become evidence. Charles felt something shift in his chest. A weight that had been crushing him began to ease. He was not alone in this fight. There is one more thing, he said. Anna has a friend, a woman named Diane Carter. She is a paralegal who specializes in high-net-worth divorce cases. She knows how these things work legally. I want her on the team. Jonah raised an eyebrow. Can she be trusted? Anna trusts her with her life, Charles replied. That is good enough for me. Mason closed his laptop. Then let us begin. The sooner we move, the less time he has to prepare. The three men spent the rest of the evening planning. They mapped out Graham's daily routine based on public information. They identified his known properties. They listed every associate, partner, and ally who might provide useful intelligence. By midnight, they had the skeleton of a strategy. Jonah would conduct physical surveillance, follow Graham, document his movements, photograph anyone he met. Mason would penetrate his digital life, smart home cameras, financial records, email accounts if possible. Diane would analyze everything through a legal lens, identify which evidence could be used and which would be dismissed. And Charles would coordinate it all. He would call in old favors, contact journalists he trusted, build a coalition of people willing to tell the truth. As Jonah and Mason prepared to leave, Charles stopped them at the door. One more thing, he said. His voice was hard as granite. Graham Blackwell does not know we are coming. By the time he realizes what is happening, it will already be too late. Jonah smiled grimly. Good. I like those odds. They disappeared into the night. Charles returned to the hospital to sit with Anna. She was sleeping again, her hands folded over her belly. He watched her breathe and made a silent promise. Whatever it takes, he whispered. Whatever it takes, I will protect you both. Outside the window, Denver glittered beneath a cold winter sky. The storm was just beginning. 3 days passed like shadows moving across a wall. Slow, deliberate, heavy with purpose. Jonah Price spent those days in his truck, watching and waiting. He followed Graham Blackwell from his penthouse apartment to his corporate office. From his corporate office to expensive restaurants. From restaurants to a high-rise condominium on the other side of the city. The condominium did not belong to Graham. It belonged to a woman named Victoria Lane. Jonah photographed her through a telephoto lens as she greeted Graham at the door. She was 29 years old. Blonde hair, designer clothes, the kind of beauty that wealthy men collected like trophies. He photographed them kissing in the doorway. He photographed them dining on her balcony. He photographed Graham leaving at 2 in the morning with his shirt untucked and his tie hanging loose around his neck. On the second night, Jonah captured something worse. Graham and Victoria sat at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. They drank expensive wine and laughed loudly. Then Graham began to gesture with his hands. He lifted his leg in a kicking motion and mimed stomping downward. Victoria covered her mouth and giggled. They were joking about what Graham had done to Anna at the bank. Jonah recorded every second. His face remained expressionless, but inside he felt disgust coiling like a snake in his gut. On the third night, Graham met a man in an underground parking garage. The man wore a cheap suit and carried a manila envelope. Money changed hands. The envelope exchanged ownership. Jonah zoomed in and captured the man's face clearly. He recognized him. a private investigator with a reputation for digging up dirt on people involved in lawsuits. Graham was building ammunition against Anna. He was preparing to destroy her credibility before she could fight back. Meanwhile, Mason Caldwell worked from his basement apartment, surrounded by humming servers and glowing monitors. His fingers flew across keyboards as he penetrated layer after layer of Graham's digital security. The smart home system was his first target. Graham had installed cameras throughout his mansion: living room, kitchen, hallways, master bedroom, home office. He thought they protected him from intruders. He never considered that they might someday protect his victims from him. Mason downloaded months of footage. The files painted a horrifying picture. Graham grabbing Anna by the arm and shoving her against a wall because she asked about a schedule. Graham screaming at Anna for 20 straight minutes because dinner arrived 5 minutes late. Graham standing over Anna as she curled on the bathroom floor, sobbing and begging him to stop. Anna trying to call her father on her cell phone. Graham ripping the phone from her hand and smashing it against the marble counter. Mason copied every file, time-stamped, organized, undeniable. Then he dug deeper. He found offshore bank accounts in the Cayman Islands, wire transfers to shell companies with no apparent business purpose, large payments made during the exact months when Graham's previous marriages ended, hush money, paid to make problems disappear. Mason also found something that made his blood run cold: a payment of $200,000 to a political action committee. The payment was made 3 weeks before a judge dismissed the abuse charges filed by Graham's second wife, the same judge who received campaign support from that political action committee. Graham had not just silenced his victims, he had purchased the legal system itself. Mason compiled everything into encrypted files and sent them to Charles through a secure channel. On the fourth day, the team gathered at Charles's home to review what they had found. Anna sat on the couch wrapped in a thick blanket. She had been discharged from the hospital, but was under strict orders to rest. Her face was pale, but her eyes were alert. She needed to see everything. Diane Carter arrived with a rolling suitcase full of legal documents and a thermos of strong coffee. She was Anna's best friend from college, African-American, raised in Atlanta, with a warm Southern accent that could shift to razor-sharp precision when discussing legal matters. "I brought wine for later and precedence for now," Diane announced as she entered. "Graham Blackwell is about to meet the wrong woman from Georgia." Anna almost smiled. It was the first time her lips had curved upward in days. The team gathered around the dining room table. Jonah spread his photographs across the surface. Mason connected his laptop to the television and began playing video clips. For the next 2 hours, they reviewed everything: the surveillance footage of Graham with Victoria, the recording of him mocking the bank incident, the home camera videos showing months of abuse, the financial documents revealing offshore accounts and suspicious payments. When the final video finished playing, silence hung in the room. Anna's face was wet with tears. Seeing the abuse documented so clearly was devastating, but it was also liberating. She was not crazy. She had not imagined it. The evidence proved everything. Diane tapped her pen against her notepad. "This is powerful material," she said carefully. "But we have a problem." "What problem?" Charles asked. Diane leaned forward. "Graham has judges in his pocket. We just saw proof of that. If we take this to court, his lawyers will argue the videos were obtained illegally. They will file motion after motion to suppress evidence. They will drag proceedings out for months, maybe years. And the judge assigned to the case will probably be someone who owes Graham favors. So the courts are useless," Jonah said flatly. "Not useless," Diane replied, "but compromised. We cannot rely on them alone." Charles had been standing by the window, arms crossed, staring at the winter sky. He turned to face the group. "Then we do not rely on them," he said. "We take this to the people." Everyone looked at him. "Graham controls judges," Charles continued. "He controls lawyers. He controls politicians. But he does not control 40 million Americans who will watch a video of a man kicking his pregnant wife and feel sick to their stomachs." Diane's eyebrows rose. "You want to go public?" "I want to expose him," Charles replied. "Completely. Thoroughly. Undeniably, I want every person in this country to see exactly who Graham Blackwell really is. That is risky, Diane cautioned. If it backfires, Anna looks like a scorned wife trying to destroy her husband's reputation. Anna spoke for the first time in an hour. Then we make sure it does not backfire. Everyone turned to her. She sat up straighter despite the pain in her side. We release everything in pieces, she said. First the real bank video, unedited. Let people see the truth. Then the home footage, layer by layer. Let them see the pattern. Then the financial records. Show them how he bought the system. Mason nodded slowly. Build momentum. Each revelation bigger than the last. Exactly, Anna said. By the time we are finished, no judge will be able to protect him. No lawyer will be able to spin the story. The whole country will know. Charles looked at his daughter with pride swelling in his chest. She had been beaten down. She had been manipulated. She had been isolated and abused. But she was not broken. She was fighting back. Diane pulled out her phone. I know journalists, good ones, people who built their careers exposing corruption and abuse of power. They will not be bought. They will not be intimidated. Charles nodded. Make the calls. We move tomorrow. The team spent the rest of the evening planning every detail. Which footage to release first, which platforms to use, which journalists to trust. By midnight, they had a strategy. By morning, they would begin executing it. Anna stayed at the table long after the others had left. She stared at the photographs of Graham and Victoria spread across the surface. She thought about all the times he had told her she was crazy, all the times he had convinced her that no one would believe her, all the times she had wondered if the abuse was somehow her fault. None of it was true. She was not crazy. She was not alone. And soon the whole world would know the truth. She placed one hand on her belly and felt her daughter kick. We are going to be okay, she whispered. I promise, Udama. Outside, the winter stars glittered against the black Colorado sky. The counterattack was about to begin. 2 days later, Anna made a decision that terrified everyone. I need to see him, she announced at the morning meeting. Face to face, I need him to say it himself. Charles set down his coffee cup with more force than necessary. Absolutely not. Dad, listen to me. No. Charles shook his head firmly. You are 6 months pregnant. He has already attacked you once. I am not sending you back into that house. Diane looked uncomfortable. Anna, honey, I understand the impulse, but your father is right. It is too dangerous. Anna stood her ground. She had spent the last 48 hours thinking about this, running every scenario through her mind, considering every risk. He thinks I am broken, she said quietly. He thinks he has already won. If I walk into his house and confront him, he will not be able to help himself. His ego will not allow him to stay calm. He will say things, he will do things, and we will have it all on camera. Jonah rubbed his jaw thoughtfully. She has a point. Men like Graham cannot resist the opportunity to gloat. If she pushes the right buttons, he will incriminate himself. Mason nodded slowly. I can have cameras planted in the mansion within 2 hours. Wireless, undetectable, high-definition audio and video. Charles turned to stare out the window. His shoulders were rigid with tension. Anna walked to him and placed a hand on his arm. Dad, she said softly, this is my fight, my marriage, my daughter. I need to face him, not because I am brave, because I refuse to let him control me anymore, even from a distance. Charles was silent for a long moment. When he finally turned around, his eyes were bright with emotion. If anything goes wrong, he said hoarsely, if he touches you, if you feel unsafe for even 1 second, then I leave, Anna promised, immediately. I will be parked outside, Jonah added, watching through the cameras in real time. The moment things go sideways, I am through that door in 30 seconds. Charles looked at his daughter. He saw the determination in her eyes, the same determination her mother had possessed, the same stubbornness that had driven him crazy and made him fall in love all those years ago. Okay, he said finally, but we do this carefully. We do this smart. Anna hugged him tightly. Thank you, Dad. The next afternoon, Anna drove to the mansion she had called home for 7 years. The house loomed over a manicured hillside like a monument to wealth and power. Tall brick walls, iron gates, a sprawling lawn that gardeners maintained with military precision. Anna had once loved this house. She had imagined raising children in its spacious rooms. She had pictured family dinners and holiday celebrations and lazy Sunday mornings. Now it just looked like a prison she had finally escaped. She parked in the circular driveway and walked to the front door. Her legs felt weak, but she forced them to carry her forward. She wore a simple dress that concealed her recording device, a necklace that had belonged to her late mother. The front door opened before she could knock. Graham stood in the doorway. He wore casual clothes, khakis, and a sweater, but his posture was anything but relaxed. His eyes narrowed as he took in the sight of her. "Anna," he said slowly, "this is unexpected." "Can I come in?" she asked. Her voice was steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. "We need to talk." Graham hesitated. For a moment, suspicion flickered across his features. Then his expression shifted to practiced concern. "Of course," he said, stepping aside. "I have been worried about you." Anna walked into the house she knew so well. The marble floors, the modern art on the walls, the grand staircase curving toward the second floor. Everything looked exactly the same. Everything felt completely different. Graham led her to the living room. He gestured toward the couch where she had spent so many nights crying silently while he slept upstairs. "Please sit. Can I get you some tea?" "No, thank you," Anna replied. She remained standing. Graham's smile faltered slightly. He was not used to resistance. Not from her. "What did you want to talk about?" he asked. Anna took a breath. In her mind, she pictured Jonah watching through the hidden cameras. She pictured her father listening in real time. She pictured all the people who would eventually see this footage. "I want to understand," she said calmly, "about the accounts, about Victoria, about everything you have been hiding from me." Graham's expression hardened. He crossed his arms over his chest. "You should not have gone to that bank," he said coldly. "You embarrassed me. I embarrassed you." Anna felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice measured. "You kicked me in front of 40 people. You kicked your pregnant wife, and I embarrassed you." Graham took a step toward her. His jaw tightened. "I did what I had to do," he said. "You were out of control. You were making a scene. Someone had to stop you by kicking me in the stomach while I am carrying your child." Graham's eyes narrowed. "You are twisting things, just like you always do, making yourself the victim when you are the one who caused all of this." Anna stared at him. For years, those words would have worked. For years, she would have doubted herself, wondered if maybe he was right. Maybe she had provoked him. Maybe it was her fault. Not anymore. "Tell me about your other wives," she said quietly. Graham froze. The color drained from his face for just a moment before he recovered. "What are you talking about?" "Rebecca and Sarah," Anna continued. "The women you married before me. The women who signed agreements and disappeared. The woman who died 6 months after divorcing you." Graham's composure cracked, his hands curled into fists at his sides. "You have been digging into things that do not concern you," he hissed. "Who have you been talking to?" "I have been talking to people who care about the truth," Anna replied. "People who are not afraid of you." Graham laughed bitterly. "Not afraid of me? Everyone should be afraid of me. Do you have any idea who I am? Do you have any idea what I can do?" He stepped closer. His presence loomed over her like a storm cloud. "I own this city," he continued, his voice rising. "I own the courts. I own the politicians. I own the police. You think you can leave me? You think anyone will believe you? You are nothing without me. Nothing." Anna did not step back. She did not flinch. "Is that what you told Rebecca?" she asked softly. "Before she died." Something snapped behind Graham's eyes. He lunged forward and grabbed her wrist. His fingers dug into her flesh with bruising force. "You do not get to mention her name," he snarled. "You do not get to mention any of them. They made the mistake of thinking they could fight me. They learned their lesson, and so will you." Anna felt pain shooting up her arm, but she held his gaze. "Thank you, Graham," she said calmly. His grip loosened slightly. Confusion flickered across his face. "For what?" "For giving me everything I needed." She pulled her arm free and walked toward the door. Graham stood frozen in the middle of the room. His face cycled through emotions: confusion, realization, fury. "You recorded this," he said slowly. "You came here to record me." Anna turned at the doorway. She looked at the man she had married, the man she had loved, the man who had tried to destroy her. "No," she replied, "you recorded yourself, just like you recorded all those videos of you hurting me. Your own cameras captured everything." She opened the door and stepped outside. Behind her, Graham let out a roar of rage. She heard something shatter against the wall, glass or ceramic, or maybe his last shred of self-control. Anna did not look back. She walked to her car on steady legs. She climbed inside and pulled away from the mansion. Only when she turned the corner did she allow herself to breathe. Jonah's voice crackled through her phone speaker. He had been listening the entire time. "You did it," he said. "We got everything. You were incredible." Anna felt tears sliding down her cheeks. But for once, they were not tears of pain or fear. They were tears of triumph. Anna slept peacefully that night for the first time in months. She dreamed of her daughter. A little girl with her mother's eyes running through a sunlit garden, laughing, safe, free. When she woke the next morning, she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. The team gathered at Charles's house to review the footage from Anna's confrontation with Graham. The video was devastating. Graham admitting he owned the courts. Graham threatening her. Graham grabbing her wrist. Graham mentioning his previous wives in a way that suggested he knew exactly what had happened to them. Combined with the home surveillance footage and the financial records, they had enough evidence to destroy Graham Blackwell completely. "We go public tomorrow," Charles announced. "Diane has arranged everything with the journalists." The story breaks on morning news shows across the country. Anna nodded, her heart raced with anticipation. After everything she had endured, justice was finally within reach. That afternoon, she allowed herself to relax. She sat on her father's porch and watched the winter sun sink toward the mountains. Her baby kicked gently inside her. "Soon," she whispered to her daughter, "soon we will be free." She went to bed that night feeling lighter than she had in years. She woke to chaos. Her phone buzzed with hundreds of notifications. News alerts, text messages, missed calls from numbers she did not recognize. Anna grabbed the phone and stared at the screen. Her face was everywhere, but not as a victim finally receiving justice, as a criminal. She clicked on the first news link with trembling fingers. Graham Blackwell had held a press conference at 6 in the morning. He stood behind a podium flanked by his lawyers and 2 police officers. His eyes were red as if he had been crying. "My wife is suffering from a severe mental breakdown," Graham said into the microphones. "She broke into my home yesterday and attempted to extort me with fabricated evidence. She made threats against my life. I am heartbroken. I only want her to get the help she needs." Anna's blood turned to ice. Graham continued, "I have filed updated restraining orders. I have also submitted evidence to the court proving that my wife poses a danger to herself, to others, and to our unborn child. The custody hearing has been moved to Friday. I trust the court will protect an innocent baby from her mother's instability." Anna dropped the phone. It clattered against the floor as the room seemed to spin around her. How? How did he know? How did he get ahead of them? Her bedroom door burst open. Charles rushed in with Jonah and Mason close behind. Their faces were grim. "Anna," Charles said urgently, "we have a problem. I saw the news," she replied. Her voice sounded hollow and distant. "How did he know we were coming?" Mason stepped forward. His face was pale. "I traced the leak. It came from inside our network. Someone on our team tipped Graham off." Anna felt the floor dropping beneath her. "Who?" she whispered. Mason swallowed hard. The communication came from a burner phone purchased by Linda Crawford. The room fell silent. Linda Crawford, one of the 3 journalists Charles had trusted with their evidence. A woman with a reputation for exposing corruption and fighting for justice. Anna felt tears burning in her eyes. But why? Why would she do this? The answer came 2 hours later when Linda arrived at the house. She looked like she had not slept in days. Her hands trembled as she sat down at the dining room table. "He got to me," she said quietly. Her voice cracked. "He has photos of my daughter. Compromising photos that could destroy her career, her marriage, everything. He said if I did not give him information, he would release them publicly." Charles slammed his fist on the table. And you believed him. You betrayed us for a threat. Linda flinched. You do not understand. My daughter is everything to me. I could not let him destroy her. So instead, you helped him destroy Anna, Diane shot back. You gave him everything. Every piece of our strategy. Every piece of evidence we were about to release. Linda's face crumpled. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I thought I could control it. I thought I could give him just enough to satisfy him without ruining everything. How much does he know? Anna asked. Her voice was barely audible. Linda closed her eyes. Tears leaked down her cheeks. Everything, she whispered. He knows everything. The room descended into heavy silence. All their work, all their planning, all their evidence. Graham knew it all, and he had struck first. Charles stood and walked to the window. His back was rigid with barely contained fury. The custody hearing is in 3 days, he said flatly. Graham has already positioned himself as the victim. He has already painted Anna as unstable and dangerous. Our evidence will be dismissed as fabricated or illegally obtained. So what do we do, Jonah asked. Charles was silent for a long moment. We find another way, he finally replied. We go around the system entirely. How, Diane asked. Charles turned to face them. His eyes were hard and determined. The courts are compromised, he said. The press has been fed Graham's version of events. But there is one thing Graham cannot control. He cannot control the internet. He cannot control 40 million people watching a live stream and deciding for themselves who is telling the truth. Anna looked up. A live stream. Charles nodded. We take everything directly to the people. No middlemen, no journalists who can be compromised. Just you looking into a camera, telling your story. That is terrifying, Anna whispered. I know, Charles replied gently, but it might be the only way. Anna placed her hands on her belly. She felt her daughter kick. She thought about all the women Graham had silenced before her. Rebecca, who died under mysterious circumstances. Sarah, who changed her name and disappeared. All the others who would come after her if he was not stopped. She thought about her daughter, the little girl she had dreamed about running through a sunlit garden. If she did not fight, her daughter would grow up in a world where men like Graham won, where wealth and power could buy justice, where victims stayed silent and predators walked free. That was not the world Anna wanted for her child. Okay, she said finally. Her voice was steady despite the fear. I will do it. Charles squeezed her shoulder. Together, he said. We do this together. Anna nodded. 3 days. She had 3 days to prepare for the fight of her life. The custody hearing arrived with the cold precision of an executioner's blade. Anna walked into the Denver County Courthouse at 8:45 in the morning. She wore a simple blue dress that did nothing to hide her pregnancy. Her face was pale, but her posture was straight. Charles walked beside her. Diane was 2 steps behind, carrying a briefcase full of documents. Reporters swarmed the entrance. Cameras flashed. Questions flew through the air like bullets. Anna, is it true you broke into your husband's home? Anna, do you have any response to the allegations of mental instability? Anna, are you afraid of losing custody? She did not answer. She kept her eyes forward and walked through the courthouse doors. The courtroom was smaller than she expected. Wood-paneled walls, fluorescent lights humming overhead. A judge's bench at the front and 2 tables facing it. Graham was already seated at the right table. His legal team surrounded him like armored knights protecting their king. 3 senior partners from the most expensive firm in Colorado. They wore identical expressions of confident contempt. Graham turned and looked at Anna as she entered. He smiled. It was the smile of a man who had already won. Anna's lawyer rose to greet her. His name was Marcus Webb. Marcus. He was 34 years old, underfunded and idealistic. He had taken her case pro bono because he believed in justice. Anna appreciated his conviction. She was less certain about his chances against Graham's army. The judge entered, and everyone rose. The Honorable Richard Patterson was 62 years old with a stern face and cold eyes. Anna recognized his name from Mason's research. He was the same judge who had dismissed the abuse charges filed by Graham's second wife, the same judge who had received campaign donations from Blackwell Development Corporation. Anna's heart sank. The hearing began. Graham's lead attorney stood first. He spoke for 45 minutes. He painted a picture of a loving husband tormented by his mentally unstable wife. He presented psychiatric evaluations from experts who had never examined Anna. He showed financial records suggesting Anna had mismanaged household funds. Everything was fabricated. Every document was fake. But the presentation was flawless. Marcus objected repeatedly. The judge overruled him every time. Then came the evidence Anna had fought so hard to gather. Marcus presented the home surveillance footage. He explained how it showed a clear pattern of domestic abuse over months. Graham's attorney immediately objected. "Your Honor, this footage was obtained illegally through unauthorized access to my client's private security system. It is inadmissible and should be stricken from the record." Judge Patterson nodded, sustained. "The footage is inadmissible." Anna felt her stomach drop. Marcus presented the financial records showing offshore accounts and suspicious payments. "Objection," Graham's attorney called out. "These documents were obtained through illegal computer intrusion. Furthermore, they have not been authenticated by any financial institution." Sustained. Marcus presented the video from Anna's confrontation with Graham at the mansion. "Objection. My client was recorded without his knowledge or consent. This is a violation of Colorado wiretapping laws." Sustained. Piece by piece, Anna watched her evidence disappear. Every video, every document, every proof of Graham's cruelty. The judge dismissed it all. By 3 o'clock, Marcus had nothing left. Graham's attorney rose for closing arguments. He spoke eloquently about protecting innocent children from unstable parents. He described Anna as a danger to herself and others. He requested sole custody of the unborn child to be transferred to Graham immediately upon birth. Judge Patterson listened with apparent sympathy. At 4:47 in the afternoon, he delivered his ruling. "Based on the evidence presented before this court," Judge Patterson intoned, "I find that the respondent, Anna Whitmore Blackwell, poses a significant risk to the welfare of the unborn child. Therefore, this court grants temporary sole custody to the petitioner, Graham Blackwell, to take effect immediately upon the child's birth. Furthermore, Mrs. Blackwell is ordered to undergo psychiatric evaluation at a facility approved by this court." Anna's legs buckled. Charles caught her before she hit the floor. Across the courtroom, Graham smiled. He had won. Again. The system had protected him. Again. Anna was led out of the courtroom in a daze. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. She heard nothing, saw nothing. All she could think about was her daughter. Her daughter who would be taken from her the moment she was born. Her daughter who would be raised by a monster. That night, Anna sat alone in her father's kitchen. The house was dark and quiet. Everyone had gone to bed except her. She stared at her reflection in the window. Her face looked older, worn down by months of fighting. For a moment, she considered giving up. What was the point? Graham controlled everything. The courts, the police, the media. He had won every battle. He would win every future battle too. Maybe she should just disappear. Take her daughter somewhere far away and hope he never found them. Then she felt her baby kick. Strong, insistent, alive. Anna placed both hands on her belly. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. Words spoken years ago before cancer stole her away. "The world will try to make you small. Do not let it. You are bigger than anything they throw at you." Anna closed her eyes. She thought about Rebecca, who died under mysterious circumstances. She thought about Sarah, who changed her name and ran away. She thought about all the women who would come after her if Graham was not stopped. She opened her eyes. "No," she whispered, "I am not done yet." She stood and walked to Charles's study. She knocked softly on the door. "Come in," her father's voice called. Anna entered. Charles was sitting at his desk, staring at nothing. His face looked 10 years older than it had that morning. "Dad," Anna said quietly, "I have an idea." Charles looked up. "But it is going to require me to do something terrifying," she continued. Charles listened as she explained. When she finished, his eyes were wide. "Are you sure?" he asked. Anna nodded. "He controls the courts. He controls the press. But he does not control the people. Not yet." Charles studied his daughter's face. He saw determination. He saw courage. He saw the woman she had always been capable of becoming. "Then we do it," he said. "Together." Anna felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "Tomorrow," she replied. "We do it tomorrow." The next evening, Anna Whitmore sat in her father's living room and prepared to speak to the world. The setup was simple: a single camera on a tripod, a lamp providing soft lighting, Anna seated in an armchair with her hands folded over her pregnant belly. No production team, no script, no makeup artist hiding the dark circles under her eyes. Just her and the truth. Mason had set up the technical infrastructure, multiple streaming platforms simultaneously, social media accounts ready to share the link, backup servers in case Graham's team tried to shut it down. Diane had contacted domestic violence organizations and women's advocacy groups. They were standing by to amplify the broadcast the moment it went live. Charles stood behind the camera. His face was steady, but his eyes were bright with emotion. "You can still change your mind," he said quietly. "No one would blame you." Anna shook her head. "If I do not do this, he wins. If I stay silent, he destroys other women after me. I have to speak." Charles nodded. "I am proud of you." Anna felt tears threatening to fall. She blinked them back. "Is the camera ready?" she asked. Mason gave a thumbs up from his position at the laptop. "Ready when you are. We go live in 30 seconds. Anna took a deep breath. She thought about her daughter, about the future she wanted to give her, about the world she wanted her to grow up in. She thought about every woman who had ever been silenced, every victim who had been told she was crazy, every survivor who had been crushed by a system designed to protect predators. This was for all of them. 10 seconds, Mason announced. Anna sat up straighter. 5 seconds, she looked directly into the camera. 3, 2, 1. You are live. A red light blinked on. Anna began to speak. "My name is Anna Whitmore. 3 weeks ago, my husband kicked me in the stomach inside a bank while I was 6 months pregnant. You may have seen a video of what happened, but the video you saw was edited. It was manipulated to make me look hysterical, to make me look like the crazy wife causing a scene." She paused. The viewer count in the corner of Mason's screen was climbing rapidly. 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. "Here's the real footage," Anna continued. Mason clicked a button. The unedited bank video began playing on screen. The full clip: Graham storming in, his hand grabbing her wrist, his leg lifting. The kick: Anna crumpling to the floor. The sound of her scream echoed through the live stream. 40,000 viewers, 50,000. Anna continued speaking when the clip ended. "My husband is Graham Blackwell. He is the CEO of Blackwell Development Corporation. He sits on charity boards. He shakes hands with politicians. Everyone thinks he is a good man." She leaned forward slightly. "He is not a good man. He is an abuser. He is a predator. And I am not the first woman he has destroyed." 100,000 viewers. "Graham has been married twice before," Anna said. "Both of his previous wives signed non-disclosure agreements and disappeared. One of them died in a suspicious car accident 6 months after her divorce. The other changed her name and went into hiding." Anna felt her voice growing stronger with each word. "He paid judges to dismiss abuse charges against him. He paid journalists to bury stories. He paid private investigators to dig up dirt on anyone who threatened to expose him. He bought the entire system to protect himself." 200,000 viewers. "Yesterday, a court ruled that my baby will be taken from me the moment she is born. The judge who made that ruling has received hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign donations from Graham's company. The evidence I gathered was thrown out. The videos of Graham abusing me were declared inadmissible." Anna's voice cracked slightly. She steadied herself. "The courts have failed me. The police have failed me. The media has failed me. But I refuse to be silenced." 300,000 viewers. Anna reached into a folder beside her chair and pulled out printed documents. "These are Graham's financial records," she said, holding them up. "Offshore accounts, payments to judges, hush money to his previous victims. Everything I am about to show you can be verified independently." She began displaying documents one by one. Bank statements, wire transfers, corporate filings. Mason simultaneously uploaded the files to multiple document sharing sites. Links appeared in the comments section. People began downloading and sharing. 500,000 viewers. Anna played the home surveillance footage. Graham grabbing her arm, Graham screaming at her, Graham standing over her as she sobbed on the bathroom floor. "This is who Graham Blackwell really is," she said as the videos played. This is what he does behind closed doors. This is what he has done to multiple women. This is what he will do to more women if we do not stop him. 700,000 viewers. Anna played the final piece of evidence, the recording from her confrontation at the mansion. Graham's voice filled the speakers. I own this city. I own the courts. I own the politicians. I own the police. You are nothing without me. Nothing. The live stream comments exploded. I believe her. This man is a monster. How is he not in prison? Share this everywhere. 1 million viewers. Anna looked directly into the camera. Tomorrow morning, a court is going to take my daughter away from me, she said. I do not know if I can stop that, but I know I can make sure the whole world sees the truth. Her voice grew firm. Graham Blackwell, if you are watching this, I want you to know something. You thought you broke me. You thought you silenced me. You thought you won. She paused. You were wrong. The live stream ended. Anna slumped back in her chair. Her entire body was trembling. Charles rushed to her side and wrapped his arms around her. You did it, he whispered. You were incredible. Mason stared at his screen with wide eyes. 1.2 million viewers, he said. And climbing. The replays are going viral. Every news network is picking it up. Diane's phone was buzzing constantly. Domestic violence organizations are issuing statements of support. Women's groups are organizing protests outside Blackwell headquarters. Anna closed her eyes. Exhaustion washed over her like a wave. But beneath the exhaustion was something else. Power. She had taken back her voice. She had told her truth. And millions of people had listened. Whatever happened next, Graham Blackwell would never be able to hide again. The next 48 hours were chaos. Anna's live stream was viewed over 20 million times. News networks played clips on every broadcast. Talk shows debated the footage for hours. Experts analyzed the evidence. Survivors of domestic violence shared their own stories in solidarity. The hashtag Justice for Anna trended nationally. Graham Blackwell tried to fight back. He released statements denying everything. He called the evidence fabricated. He accused Anna of orchestrating a smear campaign. No one believed him. The unedited bank footage was too clear. The home surveillance videos were too damning. His own words from the mansion recording condemned him. I own this city. I own the courts. I own the politicians. Those words played on repeat across every platform. Corporate partners began distancing themselves immediately. A luxury automobile brand removed Graham as a spokesman. A children's charity quietly scrubbed his name from their donor wall. A hospital foundation withdrew an invitation to their annual gala. The stock price of Blackwell Development Corporation plummeted, down 15% the first day, down another 20% the second day, down 12% more by the third morning. Investors panicked. Board members received thousands of angry emails. Shareholders demanded accountability. On the third morning after the live stream, the board of directors called an emergency meeting. Charles Whitmore arrived at Blackwell headquarters at 9 o'clock. He had spent the previous months quietly purchasing scattered shares of company stock, small purchases from different funds, nothing that would raise flags, just enough to give him a seat at the table when the time came. The time had come. The boardroom was tense when Charles entered. 11 directors sat around a long mahogany table. Their faces ranged from exhausted to furious. Graham Blackwell sat at the head of the table. His confidence had cracked. His eyes were bloodshot. His suit was rumpled. For the first time in his life, he looked afraid. Charles took a seat at the far end of the table. He placed a folder of documents in front of him. The chairman cleared his throat. This meeting has been called to address the ongoing crisis facing our company. Our stock has lost 47% of its value in 3 days. Our major partners are terminating contracts. Our reputation has been destroyed. This is a temporary situation, Graham interrupted. My legal team is preparing defamation suits against everyone involved. We will recover. The chairman shook his head. Mr. Blackwell, we have received the same evidence that the public has seen. The financial records, the payments to judges, the footage from your home. That evidence was obtained illegally, Graham snapped. It will never hold up in court. This is not a court, Charles said calmly. Everyone turned to look at him. This is a boardroom, Charles continued. We are not deciding whether you are legally guilty. We are deciding whether this company can survive with you leading it. Graham's face reddened with fury. Who do you think you are? You have no authority here. Charles opened his folder and spread the documents across the table. I am a shareholder, he replied, and these are bank records showing payments from Blackwell Development Corporation to judicial campaigns, wire transfers to offshore accounts during your previous divorces, financial evidence of systematic corruption that this board has a fiduciary duty to address. The directors leaned forward to examine the documents. Their expressions grew more disturbed with each page. If these records become part of a formal investigation, Charles continued, every person at this table could face liability. Every director who failed to act. Every executive who looked the other way. Graham slammed his palm on the table. This is blackmail. This is accountability, Charles replied. His voice was ice cold. Something you have never faced in your entire life. The chairman looked at the other directors. His face was pale. We need to vote, he said quietly. Graham shot to his feet when, you cannot do this. I built this company. I made all of you wealthy, and you put all of us at risk, one director replied. Your personal conduct has destroyed everything we worked to create. The chairman pressed a button on the conference system. A digital ballot appeared on the screen at the front of the room. 11 names, 11 choices. Remove or retain. The voting began. Remove, remove, remove. One by one, the votes appeared. Every single director chose remove. The chairman turned to Graham. His expression held no sympathy. Mr. Blackwell, he said, you are hereby removed from all executive positions at Blackwell Development Corporation effective immediately. Your access to company accounts, facilities, and systems is terminated. Security will escort you from the building. Graham's face twisted with rage. His hands shook. You will regret this, he said through clenched teeth. All of you, I will destroy every single person in this room. Charles stood and looked Graham directly in the eyes. You cannot destroy anyone anymore, he said quietly. The whole world knows who you are. 2 security guards appeared at the boardroom door. Graham looked around the room one last time. The directors who had once praised him. The executives who had envied him. The empire he had built, brick by brick. All of it was gone. He turned and walked toward the door. The security guards flanked him on either side. The boardroom doors closed behind him with a soft click. Charles remained standing for a long moment. He felt no triumph, no satisfaction, only relief that the monster had finally been stopped. That evening, Graham Blackwell drove through Denver in a daze. The radio played news reports about his removal from the company. His phone buzzed with messages he could not bring himself to read. The streets he had once owned looked unfamiliar and hostile. He ended up at a bridge on the outskirts of the city. The water below was dark and cold. The wind cut through his coat. He stood at the railing for a long time. He thought about everything he had lost, his company, his reputation, his power. He thought about Anna, the woman he had tried to control, the woman who had destroyed him instead. He thought about his previous wives, Rebecca who had died, Sarah who had run away. He had never felt guilt about any of it. He had always believed he was entitled to whatever he wanted. But now there was nowhere left to hide. Graham Blackwell made his choice. The morning news reported his death without elaboration. The anchor said the circumstances were under investigation. But everyone knew. The predator was finally gone. 3 months later, Anna stood in the nursery of her new apartment and watched sunlight pour through the window. The room was small but beautiful. Soft yellow walls, a white crib in the corner, a mobile of silver stars hanging above the mattress. In her arms, she held her daughter. The baby was 3 weeks old, 7 pounds, 4 ounces, 10 fingers and 10 toes, a healthy cry that could wake the entire building. Anna had named her Hope. It seemed like the only possible choice. Diane stood beside her, wiping tears from her eyes. She is perfect, Diana whispered. Absolutely perfect, Anna smiled, her first genuine smile and longer than she could remember. I know. Charles appeared in the doorway. His weathered face was soft with emotion. How are my girls doing? Anna looked up at her father, the man who had never stopped fighting for her, the man who had believed her when the world called her crazy, the man who had helped her destroy a monster. We are okay, she said. For the first time in years, we are really okay. The custody ruling had been overturned 2 weeks after Graham's death. The judge who made the original decision was under investigation for corruption. 3 other judges who had received payments from Blackwell Development Corporation had resigned. Anna had been awarded full custody of Hope. She had also received a substantial settlement from the Blackwell estate, negotiated by Diane with relentless precision. Anna used part of the money to start a foundation. She called it the Rebecca and Sarah Foundation, named for Graham's previous victims. The foundation provided legal assistance, counseling, and safe housing for survivors of domestic abuse. Sarah, the woman who had changed her name and disappeared, had reached out after watching the live stream. She was living in another state under a new identity. She had been too afraid to speak up for years. Now she was coming home. The rest of the settlement went into a trust fund for Hope, enough to pay for college, enough to give her options, enough to ensure she would never depend on anyone the way Anna had depended on Graham. The afternoon sun shifted across the nursery floor. Hope yawned and stretched her tiny hands. Anna carried her to the window and looked out at the Denver skyline. 3 months ago, she had been on the floor of a bank lobby, clutching her stomach and praying her baby would survive. Now she was standing in her own home, holding her healthy daughter, surrounded by people who loved her. The journey between those 2 moments had been the hardest thing she had ever done, but she had done it. She had faced her abuser. She had told her truth. She had trusted the people to listen when the system failed, and the people had listened. 20 million of them had watched her live stream. Thousands had shared her story. Hundreds had donated to her foundation. Dozens had contacted her personally to share their own experiences. She was not alone. She had never been alone. That was the lesson she wanted Hope to learn someday. The world would try to make her small. People would try to silence her. Systems would fail her. But she would always have her voice. She would always have her truth. And if she was brave enough to speak, people would listen. Anna kissed her daughter's forehead. "I am going to tell you a story someday," she whispered, "about a woman who was afraid, who was hurt, who almost gave up." Hope's eyes blinked slowly. "But she did not give up," Anna continued. "She fought back. She spoke up. And she won." The baby made a soft sound that might have been agreement. Anna smiled. Behind her, Charles and Diane were talking quietly, planning dinner, discussing schedules, making the ordinary arrangements of ordinary life. It felt like a miracle. A knock came at the apartment door. Charles went to answer it. He returned holding a small envelope with no return address. "This was in the mailbox," he said. "Just your name on it." Anna shifted Hope to one arm and took the envelope. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single photograph. A woman stood on a beach somewhere tropical. She was smiling. Her hair was loose in the wind. She looked healthy and free. On the back of the photograph, written in neat handwriting, were 2 sentences. "Thank you for telling the truth. Now I can finally come home." It was signed simply, Sarah. Anna stared at the photograph. Sarah, the woman who had run away, the woman who had lived in hiding for years, the woman who had been too afraid to speak. Because of Anna's live stream, Sarah could finally stop running. Because of Anna's courage, another woman was free. Anna held the photograph to her chest. Tears slid down her cheeks. Good tears. Healing tears. The tears of a woman who had discovered her own strength. Hope stirred in her arms and let out a small cry. Anna laughed softly and wiped her eyes. "I know, baby girl," she whispered. "I know. It is time for your bottle." She carried her daughter to the kitchen where Charles was already warming formula. Diane was setting the table for dinner. The apartment smelled like garlic bread and tomato sauce. Family. That was what this was. Not the family she had imagined years ago when she married Graham. Not the perfect picture she had tried so desperately to create. Something better. Something real. Anna sat down at the table and fed her daughter while the sun set over Denver. The sky turned orange and pink and finally deep purple. Stars began to appear one by one. Hope finished her bottle and fell asleep in Anna's arms. Her tiny chest rose and fell with each peaceful breath. Charles raised his glass of water. "A toast," he said quietly. "To what?" Diane asked. Charles looked at Anna. His eyes glistened. "To my daughter," he said. "The bravest woman I have ever known." Anna felt warmth spreading through her chest. To hope, she replied, in all its forms. They clinked glasses gently so as not to wake the baby. Outside the window, the Denver night stretched across the horizon. Thousands of lights glittered against the darkness. Millions of stories unfolded in homes across the city. Some of those stories were sad. Some were frightening. Some felt impossible to survive. But some of them were like Anna's. Stories of ordinary people who found extraordinary courage. Stories of victims who became survivors. Stories of silence that finally broke into truth. Anna looked down at her sleeping daughter. "You are going to change the world someday," she whispered. "I can feel it." Hope's tiny hand curled around Anna's finger. The grip was surprisingly strong. Anna smiled. The war was over. The healing had begun. And for the first time in years, the future looked bright. And that is the story of Anna Whitmore, a woman who refused to be silenced, a father who never stopped fighting, and a truth that 20 million people chose to believe. If this story moved you, if you felt her fear and her courage, then do me a small favor. Hit that like button. It tells me you want more stories like this. Drop a comment below. Tell me what time it is where you are and what part of this story hits you the hardest. I read every single comment. Share this with someone who needs to hear that speaking up matters. And if you have not already, subscribe and turn on that notification bell. I release new stories every week, and you do not want to miss what is coming next. Thank you for staying until the end. You are part of this community now. I will see you in the next one.